Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Jessica Finn. I'm the membership manager at NFRC. We're glad everyone's here this afternoon to go over the ballots that we have for this spring meeting. Just a couple housekeeping items before we get started. This webinar is a little bit different than our usual webinar. If you do have a question, instead of putting it in the question box, please go ahead and raise your hand. We do want to encourage discussion, ask questions to help resolve any questions before the meeting. So if you have a question, please ask it. I bet there's a good chance that someone else has the same question. If you don't have audio, please feel free to put your question in the question box and someone will read it for you. So I think that is all of the information that I have. We'll go ahead and get started. I just want to give a quick thank you to all of our 2023 sponsors. If you do have any questions about sponsorship, please let us know after the webinar and we will give you more information about the different sponsorship opportunities. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Scott. And while Scott is getting prepared, this will be recorded and we'll send it out to everybody. So if you want to revisit anything, we will get the recording out hopefully by tomorrow. So thank you.
Great. All right. Thank you, Jess. Appreciate it. Good afternoon, everybody. Scott Halen, Director of Program Operations. I will be sitting in for Mike Toman to handle his ballots. He unfortunately couldn't make it today. We also have Kevin Lauder and Dennis Anderson who will help with the other ballots. With Mike's ballots, I may rely on some of my colleagues or maybe our task group chairs to facilitate any answers or something like that that may come from the audience. So with that, we have 3 ballots for the NFRC 100, and these are 3 for Mike. The first one is the door and sidelight definitions ballot. This is something that Mike's been working on for a while now, and the ballot you'll see here is based on all the previous ballot answers, and this one is particularly just about clarifications for definitions for the terms adorb, slab, leaves, and panels, and all that kind of stuff. So that's what this ballot is for. Does anybody have any questions regarding this ballot? Just raise your hand. Yeah, I thought this was a pretty easy one. I don't see any hands going up. Anybody else? No? All right. All right, the next ballot is your 100 Sidelight rating ballot. Again, just another ballot for this it's been about 2 or 3 sessions now. The purpose of this one is really to treat sidelights consistently. Depending on the size and depending if it was a slab or if it was a sidelight that's greater than 27 inches and a slab greater than 27 inches for a sidelight, they were rated as either a fixed window or the side hinge exterior door. In this case, what we've done is the ballot is now about just making it consistent for the product type, and you don't have the clarification for those exceptions. So it removes that the sidelight is a fixed window and the sidelight is a hinge. It's not for certain circumstances anymore. So that's this one. Anybody have any questions on this ballot?
I'm gonna take them out quick.
And my wife just came home and the dogs are excited. Sorry about that. Any questions? Any hand raises? Any questions, Jess? I know maybe this one might have had some.
No.
Great.
No questions.
So then the last one here in the 100 is the glazed wall systems ballot. You can see here there was some things where clarity for using the term commercial glazed wall systems and respect the glazed wall systems. There's an update to table 4.3. The biggest update they had when you're defining how to model and rate the glazed wall systems, there was an enormous footnote at the bottom of table 4.3, and now that has actually been moved down to a section in the 100. So if you have any questions about that, when you're looking at it, you'll see there's been a lot of definition edits. There were changes to the product types in 4.3, and then of course everything was moved down to section 5.4. Let me see where it is. Yeah, 5.6.4. So any questions regarding this ballot? I don't see any hands raised. All right, great. So now with the 101, we have 5 ballots, and I believe this will all be Kevin, perhaps.
Yep, thank you, Scott. It's Kevin Louder here, Senior Manager, Commercial Programs. So the first ballot for the 101 is going to be for the density ballot. This was a lot of discussion with the task group. Essentially what this ballot is doing is taking materials from Appendix B, adding the generic version, if there was not one, into Appendix A, and then in Appendix B, including all of the variations of a specific material. The reasoning on this was to remove all of the densities, basically removing the density column out of Appendix B and putting that into the name in the Appendix B for the material name. This also was responsible for changing that footnote in footnote 1 under Appendix B, and basically requiring that the densities are there for nominal value and for reference only. Some additional items that happened on this update was some of the materials were updated. I think on the next slide, Scott. Cellular, PVC, polyester resin, expanded polystyrene, vermiculite. Those were actually typos. It was either a conversion error between the metric IP version, so that some of the values they only changed to the third decimal as well. So it wasn't a huge item, but just to be fully transparent that those materials there were updated. Also, Fiberboard conductivity was updated in Appendix A because that was not the highest value. Basically, the highest conductivity value is going to be placed in Appendix A as the generic material, so that those values that were priorly in Appendix A were updated based off of the Appendix B equivalent for the highest material. Also, Section 4.21 of this document was updated to address the removal of the densities in Appendix B. Specific note here on the bottom, the last one here is very important that no materials were removed when the reorganization happened by shifting Appendix A materials to Appendix B. No conductivities were updated other than what we listed here for, like I said, the typos and the fiberboard conductivity that was resulting in the highest conductivity value in Appendix A. So that should be primarily what happened with this one. The ballot looks messy, there's a lot of changes, but in reality, like I said, it was just reallocation of materials from Appendix B to A and removal of the density column.
And we do have one question, and Joe, you are unmuted.
Yeah, thanks, Jess, or Jen, sorry. Thanks, Kevin. Good description. As the task group chair, I might offer a little bit more if you don't mind. Just a little background for folks. As Kevin indicated, this ballot was a result of a great deal of deliberation at the task group. It resulted primarily from a response to the negative received on the previous ballot relating to how we handled density in these appendices. And that was really the fundamental question we wrestled with. And as Kevin alluded to, in the end, we decided to just simply strike the density column from Appendix B. But for those materials where density is still critical, we added the density restriction to the product name. So we didn't completely eliminate density. Please don't think we did that, but we just removed the density column and then moved the density restriction to the name of the actual material. But I would encourage folks to look this over closely because there's a lot of changes, but the only true technical change is the conductivity for fiberboard, which did actually increase from, I think, 0.14 to 0.18 in Appendix A. Everything else is really largely editorial rearranging and just kind of restructuring how we use density in 101. So hope that helps a little bit. But if you have other questions, maybe Kevin or I can help answer too. But thanks.
Thanks, Joe. Any other questions?
I just want to applaud you, Kevin, with trying to say those technical names rather quickly. Well done.
No more questions right now.
All right. And we'll move on to the next one, the Appendix A and B Source Ballot. So this kind of ties in with the Density Ballot in that if you look at this ballot, all the changes were accepted just for clarity purposes. So you'll see the what the updated Appendix A and Appendix B would look like based off the density ballot being approved. But essentially what this ballot does is we're merely updating the sources, the source column. There was a couple sources that did not align properly with the material. So those sources were corrected to update the material to the correct source. And we also realigned the categories in Appendix B to match what was in Appendix A. There was a couple mismatch, like masonry materials was down lower in the one versus the other one. So it just realigned so that, elastomers, metals, etc., they all match number or sequencing order when you look at Appendix A and Appendix B.
All right. I'm not seeing any hands raised. All right.
Okay.
Yep.
Next one for 101 is the interface material ballot. This one was fairly straightforward. It was updating section 5.1.6B III. This basically added a requirement to specify the density, to basically specify what is allowed for the interface material. So it just basically was a clarification on the density requirements of that material.
All right, Kevin, we do have one raised hand.
Okay.
Yeah, Joe Hayden here again. And again, thanks, Kevin. A little more on this one. Actually, this ballot did get approved by membership at the last conference, but between the membership meetings and the following board meeting, Dennis Anderson from staff noticed a potential conflict. Originally, we had approved a density of, I believe, 10 pounds per cubic foot for the interface material. And Dennis noticed that there was potentially a conflict with that value versus what was already shown in Appendix B. We weren't really sure if that would or wouldn't have been a conflict, but we thought just to avoid any potential perception of conflict, we changed the density a little bit lower just so it would fit within what's already shown in Appendix B. So it really is, it's kind of follow up to what was already approved, but just slightly softer density versus what we approved last time.
All right.
Thanks, Joe.
Hey, he's always helpful, isn't he? Does a great job. I don't have any more hands, so we'll move on to the next one, Kevin.
All right. Next one is reaffirmation language ballot. This one was in relation to Appendix C materials, how they're reaffirmed every year. So section 4.23 was being revised to state that the reaffirmations may only occur if the product formulation and additional requirements as deemed by NFRC remain unchanged. So it was just a statement was updated in 4.23. The only statement that was added, it was any additional requirements as deemed necessary by NFRC.
Yep, not seeing any hands. Good job.
Okay, and then the last one was going to be the reporting requirements ballot. This one was presented at the last meeting. It was adding section 5.5, and the main issue with this one was stemmed from calculations, requiring calculations of values that, so you have measured values and then you have to get calculated values, but basically proving or showing those calculated values. But basically all this section 5.5, it's actually expanding on the reporting requirements. So everything that's available in the test report would be able to, you'd be able to calculate all of those values with the results in the report. So basically by expanding the reporting requirements, all of the data is there. So for the peer review group, they're able to confirm all of the results that are being submitted for the materials. On the next slide, basically, there was also some
Okay.
editorial.
Sorry, there was one hand raised.
Oh, it's fine, but I'll let Kevin finish, then I can chime in.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, sorry.
So yeah, there was some other updates. They were editorial updates based off the last ballot. It was basically, if required, I believe, was the additions to those. So that was updated to 5.5, 1G, S, and T. And also, the task group is still reviewing the submission requirements for Appendix C materials, if there's a spreadsheet or what is required to be submitted to assist the peer review group for the Appendix C material.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Joe here. Yeah, maybe a little more just to be clear on this. Other than these few editorial changes that were approved at the last conference, this is essentially the same ballot that was issued last time. And the reason we're doing this is last time we got a negative suggesting that we add more detail about some calculated values, essentially showing your work. And as the task group talked about that, we thought it would be better to put those details into the submission form rather than into the 101 document itself. So really the language you'll be reviewing in the ballot, other than these editorial updates, is virtually identical to what was approved last time. The changes are going to be made to the submission forms, not to the 101 document itself. So that's a little more clarification there.
Yeah, that's good clarification, Joe. Yeah, like I said, this is a complete just resubmission of the ballot. Nothing changed on the ballot other than the if required adds to the 5.51 items listed there.
I'll just add one last comment. I really want to commend staff and the task group, the 101 task group, and everybody who was involved. It was a lot of conference calls, a lot of discussion, a lot of good work. And to me, it's really a very good example of how our process is supposed to work. Everybody was very open and engaged, and a lot of good discussion. So I'm really very appreciative of how that all came down. Really appreciate staff and the task group members for all their efforts. So thanks so much.
All right, great comments. Thank you, Joe. I don't see any more hands. Kevin? All right. So we're going to move on to the NFRC 200, and this is a specialty products table. And basically what this ballot is about is taking what was in the technical interpretation, 2010-01, and we're moving that language into the 200. So that would then, that TI would then be rescinded and removed, and the language would exist. And it's about clarification that using the 0 and 1s, when do you use them? And it's all good. It's already in the section there. Do we have any questions on that one? All right. Have anything? Nope, good. And then our NFRC 500, we have one ballot, and this is for Dennis.
Hey, Scott,
Thank you, Dennis.
this should be rather simple and easy to explain. A lot of words there, but essentially all we did was change the mapping, thermocouple mapping that was in NFRC 500. Let me clarify, it's an ANSI NFRC 500, not the current NFRC 500-2017, because that's the old CR method. The new CI, or condensation index method, we wanted to align completely with the Canadian standard CSA A440.2/.3 for their temperature index, which that's been most recently published with all the changes as well to their thermocouple mapping. So ours mapping aligns with them. So now if you're going to do a physical test for condensation index, it'll align perfectly with CSA and NFRC. So that's all this ballot is changing the thermocouple locations. No, a silence, I assuming no questions.
Yeah.
No
go ahead.
questions.
All right.
All right. Good job, team.
So thanks again to everyone who jumped on. I know there weren't many questions, but I hope people at least found it helpful to sort of hear about the background of some of the ballots. If you do have questions that maybe came up and you think of them later, please feel free to reach out to whoever was listed as the staff liaison on that ballot. If you have questions about voting in Spec Builder, you can email Jen. If you have questions about the meeting and registration, please let me know. Just in case you haven't registered, early bird registration does end on the 24th of February. And if you have any other questions in general about ballots and voting, about not about a specific ballot, you can reach out to Scott Hanlon. So thanks again for joining us, and thanks to all of the staff liaisons and our group chairs that joined the call tonight. I hope everyone has a great afternoon, and we will see everyone at the meeting next month.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, Jess. Good job. Thank you, team.